Everybody, welcome to episode 72 of Cameron Sports Podcast. It's your host here, Cameron Lindsay. Today we're going to be talking about the first round of the college football playoff. I'm going to be making my predictions for each game in the first round. It starts this Friday, December 20th, 8 o'clock, starting with number 10, Indiana, 11-1, taking on number 7, Notre Dame, 11-1, on the road in Notre Dame. This is going to be an in-state battle of Indiana. So this is going to be, a very important game for that state. We also got, number 10 Indiana. We got number 11 SMU, 11-2 taking on number 6 Penn State, 11-2 at Penn State. We got number 12 Clemson, 10-3 taking on number 5 Texas, 11-2. And lastly, in the first round, we have number 9 Tennessee, 10-2 taking on number 8 Ohio State, 10-2. But yeah, let's get right into it. Starting off with Indiana, taking on Notre Dame. Indiana, they did not win the Big Ten, but they, were able to get into the playoff. They finished the regular season 11-1. Their only losses to Ohio State. They get in as a 10th seed, so that that's how it works. The first 4 seeds get the highest ranked teams, which are the highest ranked conference champions, get the first round byes. They're gonna be going on the road to Notre Dame. Notre Dame is not in the conference. So the highest seed they could get is 5, but they got bumped to the 7th seed, but they still get a home playoff game for the first round. And I wrote down some key notes for each team, like strength of schedule, their best win, their worst loss, their record against top 25 teams, and their points per game on offense. And I'm going to start with Indiana. Indiana's strength of schedule, according to ESPN, was 67th. They didn't really have any really hard schedule. Like I said, Indiana's schedule was pretty much they play FIU, Western Illinois, UCLA, Charlotte, Maryland, Northwestern, Nebraska, Washington, Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, and Purdue. So they didn't have a hard schedule at all. And like I said, it was ranked 67 according to ESPN. Their best win, again, like I said, they didn't have the best schedule. The hardest schedule was against Michigan. Now, I know Michigan is not the same like they were last year. They finished the season 7-5. They did finish it on a real good note, beating Ohio State on the road. So they were decent this year, but not the Michigan the past few years. They won the Big Ten 4 straight years in a row and won the national championship last year. But that is on their resume and on their schedule, the best quality win to me was against Michigan. 20-15 at home, week 10 during the season. Indiana's worst loss, technically, is to Ohio State. And I'll look forward to that game. I was at work. I was like, finna get off work. Well, no, I didn't work. My bad. I'm sorry. They had canceled Saturday at my job, so we wasn't working. I was like, okay, cool. I'm looking forward to this game. 12 o'clock. I'm thinking it's going to be a close game because the past few years, Indiana has played Ohio State close. This year, that wasn't the case. They ended up losing 38-15 to Ohio State. They got pretty much dominated that whole game. And if Indiana would have won that game, they would have clinched a berth in the Big Ten championship game against Oregon. And they failed to capitalize on that. Indiana's record against top 25 college football playoff teams, this is the record for whenever the college football playoff rankings come out, not the AP rankings, the college football playoff rankings. And that usually comes out early November. Their record is 0-1. They only played one team that was ranked in the college football playoff top 25. But they did average 43.3 points per game throughout the regular season. So Indiana's a well-coached football team. Like I said, I just never... I at some point when it was like 10-0, I was like, I think they're going to make the college football playoff, but I'm not sure how big of a threat they are as a national championship contender. It's like the NFL. You could be a playoff contender, but are you a Super Bowl contender? 2 different things. So I knew they'll make the playoffs, so I have no problem with the committee. Like I said in my last episode, picking Indiana to get into the college football playoff. Now time for Notre Dame. Notre Dame's strength of schedule was 60th, according to ESPN. Sorry. They played Texas A&M, Northern Illinois, Purdue, Miami of Ohio, Louisville, Stanford, Georgia Tech, Navy, Florida State, Virginia, Army, and USC. Now, Notre Dame had a very hard game to begin the season at Texas A&M in that environment against the 12th man. All them fans screaming, 100,000 plus fans in that big, really big stadium. Texas A&M has a good coach, a pretty decent offense, a really good defense. It was a close game. Notre Dame ended up winning that game. Like I said, and that leads me to their best win against was against Texas A&M, 23-13, and also the second best win was against Army, the American League champion, ranked in the top 25 in the college football playoff. They beat Army 49-14. Those are Notre Dame's 2 wins, but their worst loss was the following week after beating Texas A&M was to Northern Illinois, 16-14 at home. After that, I was like, yeah, Notre Dame's done, because I feel like there's no way you recover after that. But they did. Marcus Freeman kept his team going. They ended up, like I said, winning the next 11 games, the next 10 games after that. So, and now they're in the college football playoff. Their record against college football top 25 teams, from my understanding, I think, like I said, Army, Navy, Texas A&M, they were 3-0 against top 25 college football teams during the regular season. They averaged 40.8 points per game, had a really good defense. Now, like I said, I do love Notre Dame's offense as far as their receivers. I like Jordan Love. He had almost 1,000 yards, 15 touchdowns. Riley Leonard, I think he's pretty solid. Not very elite, but solid. He had over 2,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, only 5 picks. Indiana's quarterback, Curtis Rook, he in the regular season, he had 2,827 yards, 27 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So he had a very good season. Now, like I said, I was like, okay, this game gonna be interesting. When the bracket come out, I feel like this is gonna be a really good game, the Battle of Indiana. But I'm going with Notre Dame. Notre Dame has played tougher teams like Texas A&M and Navy. Indiana had a chance to beat a college football playoff team, but they choked. They played on the road. Last time they played on the road against a college football top 25 playoff team, Ohio State, they got beat 38-15, and I just think Notre Dame will be too much for Indiana. It probably may be a good game after the first quarter and mid-second quarter, but I think Notre Dame's going to be too much for Indiana. I'm going Notre Dame 31, Indiana 14. I think it's going to be too much for Indiana. I think Notre Dame is too much of a well-coached team. Riley Leonard also can use his legs to run the football. They got Jordan Love at running back. They got some solid, decent receivers, and I love that Notre Dame defense. So yeah, I'm going to Notre Dame in the win over Indiana. And that's this Friday, 8 o'clock, December 20th. Now time for the second first round playoff game. We got number 11 SMU, 11-2, the runner-up in the ACC, taking on the runner-up in the Big Ten, number 6 Penn State, 11-2. Both these teams played in our conference championship games. SMU losing to Clemson by 3, and Penn State losing to Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. Excuse me. So both of these teams are very well-coached teams. They did not win the conference, but the committee thought that they did enough to get in. Like I said, you made it to your conference championship game. You only got 2 losses. So I have no problem with them both being in. But let's start with SMU. SMU's strength of schedule, according to ESPN, was 57th. And they played teams like their schedule. They played Nevada, some school, UV Christian, I can't pronounce it, BYU, TCU, Florida State, Louisville, Stanford, Duke, Pitt, Boston College, Virginia, Cal, and Clemson. And like I said, and their best win technically was against Duke. I was watching First Take, and Paul Farnbaugh said it. SMU's best win before the committee selected the teams. They was trying to make an argument that Alabama could possibly be in over SMU because they think Alabama's better than SMU. And their only best win is against Duke, which was 28-27 in overtime on the road. And Duke's a pretty good team, actually. So, but like I said, I'm not going to get too much into that. But I personally think, I don't know, I'm not completely sure, is this Alabama team better than SMU? I think I said that in my last episode, but I'm not going to get too much into that. SMU's worst loss was against BYU, 18-15 at home. BYU's a really good team, but technically that was their worst loss during their season. They are 1-2 against college football top 25 teams. Their only win coming against at the time was Louisville. But their two losses coming against BYU and Clemson in the ACC championship game. They did average 39.9 points per game. So, but yeah, they're a very well-coached team. It's just my thing is, will they play like they did in the ACC championship game and fall behind and then have to make a comeback? We'll see. But let's get to Penn State. Penn State's strength of schedule, according to ESPN, was 30th. Penn State, their schedule was, they played, real quick. They played West Virginia Mountaineers, Bowling Green, Kent State, Illinois, UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, Maryland, and Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. Penn State best win was against number 20th Illinois, 21-7 at home. Penn State only losses were to Ohio State, 20-13 at home, and Oregon in the Big Ten championship game, 45-37. So technically, those two are their worst loss. Maybe the Ohio State was their worst loss, technically, but because they only put up 13 points, and their defense was the reason that Penn State was in that game in the first place. They have a record of 1-2 against college football top 25 teams. The only win coming against Illinois. The two losses, Oregon and Ohio State. They averaged 35.2 points per game. Now, Penn State is a really good team. I love their two running backs. Drew Aller's a pretty decent quarterback. He had over 2,800 yards, 21 touchdowns, 7 picks. Nick Singleton over 800 yards rushing. So him, and I love the other running backs. So their two running back, number 10 and number 13, both of them are very, very good combo. They can run the ball. SMU, Jennings, quarterback, 3,000 yards, 22 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He's really solid. But, I got, my only issue with both these teams is, like I said, SMU, the way they played in the ACC championship game. They started off slow, getting behind. They did make a comeback, but it still fell short against Clemson. Penn State, my problem is James Franklin. He's a very good coach. It's just that he just can't win the big one when it matters most. He can't beat Ohio State. He can't beat Michigan when it matters most. He can't beat Oregon. He can't really win the Big Ten championship game like that. I think he only won it once, since he's been there. I have to check that again to be sure on my free time. But part of me wants to say that I could see them choking. But since the game's at Penn State, if it was at SMU, possibly. But I'm going to go Penn State slightly over SMU. I'm going to say Penn State wins 27-23 over SMU. I think in that weather, I think when running the ball, that defense, I think Penn State would do enough to edge out and advance to the second round of the playoff, winning at home. But I will say this, if Penn State loses the game at home, I think James Franklin could be on the hot seat next year. I don't think he'll get fired this year, but next year he'll be on the hot seat for sure. But I'm going Penn State over SMU. Next up, we got our third first-round game. Number 12, Clemson, 10-3, ACC champion, taking on the SEC runner-up. Number 5, Texas, 11-2. This Saturday, 21st, 4 p.m. Oh, and the SMU game in Penn State is at 12 o'clock. That'll be the first game on Saturday. But yes, let's start with Clemson. Clemson's strength of schedule was 35th according to ESPN. Their best win came against SMU in the ACC championship game, 34-31. Their worst loss came against Louisville, 33-21 at home. So yeah, that one right there, like, it's like Clemson. they got a good team, but at the same time, I just don't see the same Clemson team like with Deshaun or Trevor Lawrence. I just don't. But yeah, and also their other worst loss technically came against Georgia the first game of the season. They put up 3 points, lost 34-3. They played Appalachian State, NC State, Stanford, Florida State, Wake Forest, Virginia, Louisville, Virginia Tech, Pitt, the Citadel, South Carolina, which they lost at home, and then SMU in the ACC Championship game. And the only reason they made it to the ACC Championship game was because Syracuse upset Miami at home the last game of the season. Clemson's record against top 25 teams, college football teams, is 2-1. They average 37.4 points per game, so that's good. But yeah, now let's get into Texas. Texas' strength of schedule was 20th according to ESPN. Their best win came against Texas A&M on the road, 17-7. Their worst loss came against Georgia twice. I mean, not twice. Only once at home, 30-15. I had picked Texas to win both games, especially that one again in the regular season. I thought Texas was the better team, but Georgia came in and dominated, thankfully to their defense, not because of Carson Beck. If you go back and look at that game, Carson Beck barely threw for 100 yards, and he threw 3 picks. The reason Georgia won that game was because of their defense. They ran the ball pretty well. Trevor Etienne had over 80-some yards, so he ran the ball pretty solid. And Quinn Ewers turned the ball over. Fumble, he threw a pick. That Georgia defense, led by Mikael Williams and Malachi Starks, were phenomenal. But yeah, that was the worst loss. They're 0-2 against college football top 25 teams. They average 35.5 points per game. Now, this one, like I said, I think this is going to be an interesting game. Like I said, Clemson has a good defense, especially led by T.J. Parker, local from Phoenix City, Alabama, sophomore. I think the way he's projected, if he keeps balling like he is, like next year, he's going to be projected to be a first-round pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. Cade Klubnik has had a pretty solid year. I'm not the biggest fan of him like Carson Beck, but he had a pretty solid year with 3,303 passing yards, 33 touchdowns, and 5 picks. So Cade Klubnik had a pretty solid year. Phil Maffa, I like him. He had a good year, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. Texas, like I said, I still love Quinn Ewers. I think Quinn Ewers is the better quarterback in this matchup. He has over 2,600 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 9 picks. I think if this game was in Clemson, I probably would lean to the upset, but I'm going to go with Texas in a close one. I'm going to say Texas beat Clemson 27-20. I think, I'm going to say 30-20. But just by 10 points, I think Texas will edge out Clemson, so especially being at home. Texas is the better quarterback. Even though technically Dabo is the better overall coach, but Steve Sarkisian, I say right now, has been the better coach in the past few years. So I'm going Texas over Clemson, and that will be 4 o'clock this Saturday, December 21st, in Austin, Texas. Now, for the last game, Saturday, December 21st, 8 o'clock, between number 9 Tennessee 10-2 versus number 8 Ohio State 10-2. Now, this game, I haven't really made a prediction yet, and that's because I'm really having a hard time going back and forth. But let me get into it before I say why. Tennessee's strength of schedule was 28th according to ESPN. Their best win came against Alabama, and that was 24-17 at home. Tennessee has played Chattanooga, NC State, Kent State, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Florida, Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Georgia, UTEP, and Vanderbilt. Their worst loss came against Arkansas on the road, 19-14. They're 1-1 against college football playoff top 25 teams. They beat Alabama and they lost to Georgia. They averaged 37.3 points per game. I love Tennessee's defense has been really solid. I love Nico Emalava. I can't pronounce his name. The redshirt freshman. He had over 2,500 pass yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I think he has a bright future. But yeah, Tennessee, like I said, they didn't make it to the SEC championship game, but they had a really, really good year. They had a okay schedule according to ESPN, but not the best strength of schedule. top 30, but still not all that strong. Now let's get to Ohio State. Ohio State right behind Tennessee. They got the 29th strength of schedule according to ESPN. Their best win came against Penn State 2013 on the road and Indiana at home 38-15. Their worst loss came against their rival Michigan 13-10 at home. They were 2-1 against college football top 25 teams. They averaged 37.5 points per game. Now, that last game of the season, I thought Ohio State was going to make it to the Big Ten championship game. I'm like, okay, it's going to be a rematch between Ohio State and Oregon. If you watch my episodes all season, I said I think Oregon's going to beat Ohio State in the regular season, but I'm going to have Ohio State beating Oregon in a rematch in the Big Ten championship game. I was wrong. Like I said, I like Oregon, but I just think like Oregon's first year being the Big Ten, are they going to be just completely just win the Big Ten? And that's what they did. Ohio State, I thought, would beat Michigan because they got the far better talent at quarterback, running back, receiver, O-line. Like, they loaded. We got Will Howard, Travion Henderson, Quinshawn Judkins, the freshman sensation, 5-star receiver Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Ibuka, who's potentially going to be a first-round pick, Cardell Tate. You got all these. You got Chip Kelly as your offensive coordinator. He a former head coach at UCLA and Oregon, known for fast-paced tempo offenses. So I'm thinking Ohio State is far more skilled than Michigan. Apparently that don't matter, and it really don't matter when you're playing a rival. Even though Michigan was 6-5, barely bowl eligible, having a really down year compared to last year because they lost their starting quarterback J.J. McCarthy and Blake Corum and Jim Harbaugh to the NFL. They lost a lot of pieces. They have a first-year official head coach in Jerome Moore. So, yeah. But kudos to Michigan getting the win against Ohio State on the road. That right there, I think that right there probably is like winning a national championship to Michigan, beating Ohio State. Any team, really, if you beat your in-state rival, even if you're having a bad year or down year, that's your chance. It's like your national championship right there. But this right here, I think Ryan Day's job is on the line. You can't lose to Michigan 4 years in a row, not win a Big Ten championship game, not winning national championship game. The only way he can save his job is to win a national championship game. I don't think there's no way out of it. He has to. Because if he loses, I think it's a real good shot he gets fired. I can see it coming. And it's going to be I think if he does get fired, Ohio State's going to be the number one job in the offseason right there. If I was Bill Belichick, I know he went to North Carolina, but I would have waited and then went to Ohio State. But, yeah, like I said, Tennessee has both these teams have pretty solid defenses, especially Ohio State and Tennessee. Both of them have really skilled players, but I say Ohio State has the advantage in skilled players with Travion Henderson, Quinshawn Judkins, Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Ibuka, Cardell Tate. Now, I think Tennessee has the better quarterback. I think I would take Nico over Will Howard, even though Will Howard has had a really good year, 27 touchdowns, 8 picks, 2,800 yards. It's real close, y'all. I'm going to go Ohio State. I think Ohio State finds a way to win slightly. I'm not confident in this pick. If I'm wrong, I will come back next episode during the second round and say I was wrong. You know me. I was wrong about Texas beating Georgia in the ACC championship game. I was wrong. I was wrong about Tulane beating Army. But I was right about Oregon. I was right about I was wrong about Clemson and SMU. I was right about Oregon. Who else? There you go. Oh, Arizona State in the Big 12 championship game. I was right about that, but I commit when I'm wrong. But I'm on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm like a 2. I'm not even gonna lie. The only reason I'm picking Ohio State is because it's at home. So Tennessee has to go from down south up into that weather. I think Ohio State has more skilled players on offense, but Tennessee defense is legit. So, but Nico's a redshirt freshman. He's still a freshman. It's going to be a first playoff game. So I think Ohio State's going to be able to squeeze it out. I say 20-13 over Tennessee slightly. I'm not confident in it. at all, but I'm going Ohio State to win against Tennessee, and Ryan Day keeps his job for another week. But unless he wins the national championship game, I think he has to get fired. There's no way you have all that talent, you lose 4 straight years in a row to Michigan, no national championship, no Big Ten championship, and you keep your job. There's no way. But those are my picks, right? So Friday, December 20th, I got Notre Dame against Indiana. The 7th seed Notre Dame against the 10th seed Indiana. I got Notre Dame. I got Penn State, the 6th seed, taking on number 11 seed SMU. I got Penn State over SMU. I got Texas, the 5th seed, taking on Clemson. 12th seed, I got Texas over Clemson. And lastly, I'm going Ohio State over Tennessee. Ohio State, the 8th seed, Tennessee, the 9th seed. I got all them teams advancing to the second round. Like I said, I'm not confident in that last pick, but I think I just trust the Ohio State with the home field advantage. I trust their skill players more than I do Tennessee skill players. Even though they got Nico, they got a really good running back, and Samson. Samson has over 1,400 yards and 22 rushing touchdowns. So I'm gonna say it's real close, but I just have to go Ohio State. I'm not confident in it. But it was at Tennessee, I would definitely go Tennessee. Like I said, I think it's definitely Tennessee. But, yeah, the key's going to be Ohio State's offense. Can they bounce back, putting up only 10 points against Michigan? But, yeah, both these teams have really solid defenses. Statistically wise, really good defenses. So, I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game at all, especially in that weather. But I'm going to go Ohio State slightly. But yeah, let me know what y'all think. Who are y'all picks for the first round of the college football playoff? Are y'all excited? Some people still don't like the format. I like the format. 12 team is better than 4. It's sure better than the BCS era when there's only 2 teams. So, but no fan's gonna be unhappy. All fans gonna feel some type of way. Some journalists, but me, this journalist right here, I like it. I love it. It's more football. More teams get a chance. I'm excited. But thank you for tuning in for another episode of my podcast. I want you to always know that you very much appreciate it. Whether it's 1 view, 2 views, I appreciate each one of y'all. I will post another episode this week for my week 16 NFL predictions. I'm gonna be talking about a few games. But yeah, I'll catch y'all next time for that episode. And thank you for tuning in for Cameron Sports Podcast. I'll see y'all next time.